Hello and welcome back to another class. My name is Tati. Welcome to the channel, or welcome back if you've practiced with me before. Today we'll be doing a yin yoga class, and for those of you who follow me on Instagram at Tati YIN YOGA, you might be aware that I have recently completed training with Norman Blair in yin yoga. So I'm very excited to share with you my first yin yoga class. So today's class will be perfect for beginners. You might want to have some props at hand. So we can practice yin yoga without any props, but it can be really nice to support the body. We might be holding the poses a bit longer than in some faster paced styles of yoga. So if you're familiar with those, you might know poses like pigeon, which in yin yoga we give poses a different name just to differentiate the fact that we're in our yin mindset, we're leaving the ego at the door, and we want to be able to walk out of class. So we're finding the edge of where we're finding the deep stretch, but we're not going so far that absolutely no pain, but even where there's any discomfort. So props can be really helpful for that, because we provide that extra padding and support for the body when we come into these poses. So important to remember with yin yoga, which is a much slower pace of yoga, it really is about the shape of the mind rather than the shape of the body. So we're not here to achieve any particular shapes. We're here to find some space, create some physical, emotional, and mental space for ourselves. So the poses can be challenging physically, but also mentally, because we're coming into a few longer holds. So for those of you who have never done yin before or are fairly new to it, in the initial phases, for myself personally, I always found that it's incredibly difficult to deal with all that mind chatter. You suddenly remember all of the things that you need to do, or you're like, oh, this is boring, I'd rather be doing something else. But there's so much we can learn in those poses where we just calm the mind chatter, anchor ourselves back to the present moment. The easiest way is just focusing on the breath and then seeing what comes up. We're allowing space for ourselves to be. There might be a bit of a misconception that yin yoga is just there for deep relaxation, which it absolutely can be, but just know that it's totally normal to also feel other feelings which might not be associated with relaxation, such as frustration and irritation. So I just thought I'd point that out, because you're not doing anything wrong if those feelings come up. Yin yoga is really about learning lessons from ourselves. I recently spent 5 days doing yin yoga every single day for many hours, and I had a lot of emotions come up for me, and it was a beautiful practice in learning how to just surrender to what is, what's coming up, allowing the emotions to come up. And even if you have none of those experiences and you just come in and you create that physical space for yourself, know that that is also perfectly right. There is no right or wrong with yin yoga unless you go so deep that you hurt yourself. So the props that you might like to have at hand are some bolsters if you have them at home, pillows, blocks, straps, and seeing as this is a beginner's class, you might not have any of these props at home, so don't worry. For the strap, you might have a belt or a sarong or some kind of a scarf that's quite long that you can loop together. For blocks, you can use books or a shoebox, anything that's a little bit more stable, so a hard shoebox or a stack of books. And then of course, any pillows or cushions or couch cushions, anything for padding. And of course, you might want to also have a blanket for the end. And with that, I'd say, let's get started. So let's get started by lying down on our back. You might like to slide a pillow or a bolster underneath the knees for added comfort. And you might also like to have a blanket or pillow underneath the head. Feel free to rest the wrists on blocks. So if you have them or some books at hand, it can be quite nice to just rest the wrist on the block And just wriggling yourself into a comfortable position, arriving in your practice. Noticing the quality of the breath traveling through the body and the quality of your mind as you land on your mat. Starting to deepen and slow down the breath. You might like to unfurl the fingers, unclench the jaw, relaxing all of the tiny muscles behind the eye. Sinking into the earth with every exhalation. So starting to bring some movement back into the body, perhaps wriggling the toes, the fingers, stretching the arms up if that feels comfortable. And hugging the knees into the chest. You might want to gently and very slowly rock from side to side. In yin, we don't really move too much or too fast, but acknowledging also that the body might like to release any tension from holding a pose. And from here, stretching out the left leg. Again, you might have a bolster or a pillow underneath the left knee for support, or you can have it flat on the mat, your choice. Hugging the right knee into the chest, just as far as feels comfortable. So clasping the hands and just holding onto the outside of the right knee, or perhaps it feels more comfortable to hold onto the inside of the knee. So seeing which one works best for you. Then from here, if you have a strap, a belt or a scarf at hand, that can be really helpful for this next pose. So looping the strap around the right foot, so just under the end of the toes, so sitting snugly, having a nice long loop so that you can hold on and rest the elbows on the mat. You can bend into the right knee as much as you need. Or if this is too strong for you today, you can always place the right foot onto the floor or a bolster. So choosing, listening to your body, being kind. We're not here to harm our body. We're here for 30 seconds. Gently bend into the knee, moving the strap to one side, hugging that knee back into the chest. And then slowly placing the foot onto the mat or both feet onto the bolster. Just resting a few moments in constructive rest. Straightening out the back, feeling the difference between the left and the right half of the body. And then straightening out the right leg over your bolster or pillow or straight on the mat, hugging the left knee into the chest. So for those of us with some pain in our knee, it can be nice to have the hands on the inside of the kneecap just to create that bit of extra space. And then from here, grabbing a hold of your strap, belt or scarf, or taking an option to place the left foot on a bolster or the floor. If you are using the strap, wrapping it around the left foot, holding onto either side of the strap, and hopefully your strap or scarf or belt is long enough so you can rest the elbows on the mat, bending into that left knee. And I love this quote by Jack Cornfield. There are only 3 things in life that matter: how well we have lived, how well we have loved, and how well we have let go. So how well we have lived, how well we have loved, and how well we have learned to let go. Gently bend into the knee, moving the strap to the side, resting both legs back onto the earth. Breathing deeply into the belly and exhale. Breathing in and exhale, side out. And very slowly now, rolling over onto your left side. So keeping the head nice and low to the ground. Maybe drawing the knees closer to the body, forming a pillow with the arms. We've been on the back, on the ground for quite a while, so moving slowly, pressing yourself up into a seated position. So for our next pose, butterfly pose, you might like to sit on a block or a cushion just to lift the hips up a bit off the mat. Just play around with this. For some of us it might not be so comfortable. And then bringing the bottom of the feet to touch. You can have a reasonably big gap between the feet and the hips. And then now it's nice to have those books or blocks at hand if you need some added support underneath the knees. So sliding underneath the knees. I actually only have one block at home. And then you might also like to use your bolsters or your pillows. You might want to stack a block underneath the bolster. So I'll turn everything this way so you can see what's going on here. So just playing around a bit and see what feels comfortable, and finding a nice tall spine, placing the hands onto the mat. Breathing deeply. And then finding a tilt forward if that feels good. It might be nice to just stay here for today with a nice tall spine, or walking forward just to the point where it feels comfortable in your body. So again, that sense of non-harm, listening to the body. And you might notice throughout the hold of the pose, it might help release some of the muscle strain and then allow you to go a bit deeper into the pose. But this is not the aim of the pose, and equally you might notice that actually I've gone a bit far into the pose today, so I'm just going to back off a little bit. We are holding these poses for quite a long time, so it's really important to make sure that you're comfortable in the pose. So if something isn't working for you, just adjust, play around. Maybe you practice this again tomorrow and you see that the body feels completely different and wants a different prop or angle, and that is totally normal. Our bodies change from day to day. Thinking about a story of Winnie the Pooh and Piglet. You might be familiar with these two characters. And Pooh Bear asked Piglet, "What day is today?" And Piglet, being a piglet, squeaked, "It's today, my favourite day." And I think that's just such a wonderful reminder to be present, and you might not be enjoying the present moment, maybe you're feeling it everywhere in the body, but in the now is where our life is happening, so it can be a nice attitude to feel like that's the favourite day. And gently easing yourself up out of the pose, so straightening the spine, moving any props to the side, and then very gently holding the outside of the knees and guiding them in together, placing the feet on the mat, hands behind you with the fingers pointing in or behind, so see what feels nice for you today. You might want to gently just knock the knees from side to side, stretching out the legs and just opening up the chest. So just finding a bit of a constructive rest pose in between. Maybe there's a hint of an imprint of the feeling of the pose we just did. So notice where in the body you're feeling the sensations. And then releasing, moving the legs around one side, rolling onto the hands and knees, and we'll be coming into hero pose, so sitting down on the knees. This can be really intense on the knees, so feel free to come into a cross-legged position or have the hands out in front of you, so just gently lean back. It can be really comfortable to have a block or a bolster underneath the heels just for some added support. Of course, some padding underneath the knees, so a rolled up blanket here can be really nice. So just finding what feels good in your body now to set yourself up. Finding a tall spine and somewhere to rest the hands on the lap, or perhaps a pillow on the lap. And just acknowledging any mind chatter, any feelings. You might love this pose, you might not like this pose so much. The mind might start to chatter and say, "This is boring," or "I'm frustrated." Just acknowledge these feelings, just the same way that they come up in everyday life. Focusing back on the breath, so you might like to sense where you feel the breath enter the nostrils or the back of the throat. Where with the inhalation do you notice the air entering your body? And then gently removing any props that you were using. Rolling back onto the sit bones, swinging the legs forward, straighten them out slowly. I quite like to just squeeze the knee joints a bit, just feel what's going on in there, maybe pressing the inner and outer part of the leg, just noticing and feeling the body, releasing the pose. This is quite a strong one for the lower half of our body. And preparing for Dragonfly. Again, this might not be appropriate for everyone, so an option is to place the feet onto the mat and fold forward, holding onto the arms, curling forward. Also welcome to lie on your back, hugging your knees into your chest, or opening the legs wide. Again, really good to sit on a block for that added height if you don't have as much mobility in your hips, so this can be really nice to help tilt forward. We're not going to open the legs as wide as we would in a yoga flow pose or a faster paced yoga class, because we'll be holding a bit longer, so we're not going that deep, at least not initially. So opening the legs as wide as feels comfortable. For many of us, this is perfect where we want to be. You can always place a bolster or pillow in front of the body to rest the hands on. You can also start stacking more of your blocks and pillows up in front of you to bring that bolster closer to your body as we fold forward. So really forming a nice tall stack here, so you can rest the belly. Again, the arms can be on the bolster or the ground, and then just rounding the body forward. Releasing into Dragonfly. If you are resting the head on the bolster or pillow stack, it might not always feel nice to have the forehead on the block, so or bolster, you can turn to one cheek or temple. If you do have the cheek on the bolster, switching directions. Releasing and surrendering to this present moment. We often live in the past or the future. Our mind is very habituated to not dwell in the present moment. So the more we practice to be aware of where we are right now, the breath, the easier it comes to catch ourselves when the thoughts naturally wander into the past or the future. And exhale, turning the head back to center, pressing into the hands, rolling yourself slowly in your own time, moving all of the props to the side. We'll be coming into child's pose next, so rolling back onto the hands and knees. Again, taking your variation, maybe sliding a pillow between the legs for some added height. Maybe rolling up a blanket to place underneath the knees. The knees can be together, they can be wide apart. Melting forward, maybe onto the forearms, maybe coming down onto a block, so placing the block underneath the forehead. And resting the arms up and overhead or alongside the body. So Take your time now to set yourself up. Find what is comfortable for you to hold for a few minutes. If child's pose doesn't work for you and you'd prefer to have a more open pose, you can lie on your back, hugging your knees into your chest. We're here for 30 more seconds. And then gently lifting the head, walking the hands back out, removing any props and finding back to a seated position, stretching the legs out so they're about hip width apart. Arms can thread underneath the body and just rolling the head forward for a few moments. Rolling out, and for our final shape you might like to come into a traditional Savasana, so lying down on your back, no props needed for that, so you can slide the bolster underneath your knees, or you might bring your pillow or bolster to the base of the spine. If you have blocks, some of us like to elevate the bolster at the head end, so placing the block at the far end of the bolster, so it's at an angle. I personally don't like this variation, so I'll be leaving it flat on the mat. You choose what is nice for you. Get nice and warm. We'll be lying down for a little while so the body can cool down. So maybe wear something warm or cover yourself with a blanket. And then option, feet can rest on the mat. You can bring the bottoms of the feet together into butterfly. You can stretch the legs out in front of you and resting the arms on the earth, or again option to place the forearms on a bolster. Closing down the eyes. And this is a gentle chest and heart opener, and always reminds me of a beautiful quote of open your heart and drink in this glorious day. And I know not all of us are perhaps experiencing or have just experienced a glorious day, but the invitation is to remember or reflect on a few, doesn't matter how small they are, just a few things to be grateful for that might contribute to a glorious day. So for example, today I went for a walk outside, and I live in central London, but I did see a small flower crack out from between the pavement, so not really the most hospitable place to live as a flower, but this little flower overcame all of the concrete and popped out and showed the world its beauty. So I just found that really beautiful and something I appreciated being able to see. I'm also really grateful for waking up this morning and having another day on this earth. So whatever comes up for you, I really invite you to explore and reflect on some things that you're grateful for. You might feel halfway through this pose that actually you've had enough of a back bend, so feel free to slide the bolster or props you might be using to the side and lying down on the back. Scanning through the body. So as you hear my voice name the body part, gently bring your attention to that area of the body. So bringing attention to the center of the chest, the right shoulder, right elbow, lower arm, palm of the right hand, back of the hand, all 5 fingers of the right hand, the whole right arm, center of the chest. Left shoulder, upper arm, left elbow, lower arm, palm of the left hand, back of the hand, all 5 fingers of the left hand, the whole left arm, center of the chest, belly button, center of the belly, and the whole pelvic area, including the left and right hip, the whole right leg, the whole left leg, top of the right leg, bottom of the right leg, top of the left leg, bottom of the left leg. Feeling the whole back of the body, the whole front of the body, center of the forehead, tip of the nose, upper lip, lower lip, the whole head, and resting in quiet for a few minutes. You are, of course, welcome to Stay here with the eyes open if you don't feel comfortable with the eyes closed. Or move the body, but I do encourage you to simmer in the stillness. And I will call us back when it is time. So gently starting to notice the sounds in the room around you. Sense the shape and volume of the body. The feeling of being held by the earth beneath you. Taking a deep inhalation through the nose all the way into the belly and exhale. Taking another deep nourishing breath in and out. Wriggle the fingers and the toes, maybe rolling out the wrists and ankle joints. Arms up and overhead, stretching the body long. With the eyes closed, very slowly rolling over onto your left side, the yin half of the body. So just resting here for a couple of breaths. Noticing how you feel. And then gently pressing yourself back up into a seated position, really taking your time here. Eyes are closed, hands are resting on the knees or the lap. Finding gratitude for yourself for showing up and carving out this time and space for yourself. Acknowledging any feelings or sensations that came up for you during practice. Bringing the hands to touch at heart center, feeling that connection of the palms, connection to yourself. And bowing the gaze in gratitude. Namaste. Thank you so very much for being here, for staying until the end. I really hope that you were able to simmer in this space that you created for yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, it really means a lot to me that you're supporting the channel by subscribing. For you, it also means that you won't miss out on any new classes. I release new videos every Sunday, and there's a selection of some faster paced and stronger flow type yoga classes. There's some meditations, some yoga nidra, so yogic sleep, and now some yin yoga or slow paced classes. So you might want to check out the description box. I'll link some of my other classes in there that you might like to explore, and I hope to see you on the mat again really soon. And let me know in the comments which of these poses you enjoy the most. If this is your first time doing yin yoga, I would love to hear how you felt about it. It might not have been a positive experience. I found my first class incredibly challenging. There was so much mind chatter going on, but you can be really proud of yourself for making it through the whole class. This is a nice little gateway into meditation, and I really hope that you keep up the practice if this is something you feel can benefit you. It took me a few classes to get into it, so if this is you, feel free to try more yin yoga classes. All my love.